Taiwan's Marines have returned to a Taiwan-governed island in the South China Sea. That's according to an unnamed military source in local media. The country's Coast Guard has been operating on Pratas Island since the year 2000, but a Liberty Times report says Taiwan's Marines have been upping their presence there in light of China's increasing aggression in the region. The island sits in the South China Sea, where several countries have competing sovereignty claims. China claims nearly all of the sea as its own, despite having no legal basis. The military source says the addition of Marines on the island would mean advanced anti-air and anti-armor systems would also be deployed. China might have a secret motive for its air and sea incursions near Taiwan. A new report from Washington-based think tank the Heritage Foundation says Beijing is practicing how to capture territory in a potential war with Taiwan. Such air incursions are part of China's gray zone tactics to put pressure on the country. To find out more, Jaime Ocon spoke to the report's author, Brent Sadler.
Brent, I want to first start off by asking you, what kind of gray zone activities are we seeing around Taiwan and around Japan?
Two big things. One, there is this family of types of operations that people have called gray zone operations. It's not one type. It's actually several varieties of activities, and it's always changing. But if you look at it, we're in another phase of, I think, a significant change the way the Chinese maritime forces operate and behave. The other is this positional advantage thing, and it's very tactical in one level, but when you step back, it's all about position for a potential fight in the next war in Asia.
And is this a new thing? Are these kinds of gray zone activities just starting to take place, or have we known about this for a while?
About 20 years ago, they started to pick up the activities in the East China Sea. They thought they got to an understanding with the Japanese that was beneficial to them. 2007, 2008, they start to change the terms of the deal of co-development. You see large fishing fleets, aircraft intrusions, and it reaches a crisis. And then we're at a very tense but static kind of standoff since about 2012, 2013 in the East China Sea. And you see a very similar, not exact, similar kind of trajectory or pattern of behavior that's played out, and we're reaching a culminating, I guess, climax of about 10 years of activities in the South China Sea. And the big question is, where next?
And for Taiwan, what can it do to manage these kinds of threats? Should it take an approach like the Philippines and document everything on the media, or maybe like Japan and continue scrambling fighters to warn off these Chinese planes?
Taiwan is somewhere in between on both fronts. One, they are responding militarily as best they can. They have to keep that up. They need to do better. And they need to find probably new ways, like using drones rather than sending up manned aircraft. I know this is a hot topic in Taipei. The other is starting to maybe go in offense in other ways, not like fly into Chinese airspace necessarily, but challenging assumptions in Beijing that Taiwan will only be reactive and only focused in on the Taiwan Strait. And I'll leave that there. The other is the information campaign. They could also be exposing Chinese fishing fleets that are escorted by Chinese Coast Guard and maritime militia and putting that out. So there are things that they too can do, not just in the Chinese press, but in multiple languages.